The alarm clock screamed at 4:47 a.m. Autumn McKinley's hand shot out from under the thin blanket, silencing it with the practiced precision of someone who'd been waking to that sound for 8 months straight. March 15th, 28 years old today. She stared at the water-stained ceiling of her trailer, counting the cracks she'd memorized during sleepless nights. 17 major fractures, countless smaller ones spreading like spiderwebs across cheap plaster. Happy birthday, the trailer park sat 3 miles outside Pine Ridge, Arizona, a collection of rusted metal boxes baking under the desert sun by day, freezing under star-scattered skies by night. Autumn had moved here last July paying cash for 6 months up front to a landlord who didn't ask questions. The kind of place where people came to disappear. She'd been disappearing for 8 months. The shower ran cold for the first 2 minutes. Always did. Autumn stood under the icy stream without flinching, letting it shock her system awake. In the cracked mirror, she examined her reflection through the steam. 28 looked older when you carried secrets that weighed more than your body. Dark circles under green eyes. Her mother's eyes, Sarah McKinley used to say. Your eyes are the color of spring leaves, baby girl. Fresh and alive. Sarah had been dead 6 years. Lung cancer from 20 years of waitressing and smoking sections breathing other people's poison. She died without ever telling Autumn who her father was. Just that he'd been a good man. A soldier. Someone who didn't know she existed. Autumn pulled on jeans and a faded blue t-shirt, the uniform of invisibility. In the top drawer of her dresser, hidden beneath socks, no one would steal, sat a notebook. Black leather cover pages filled with Daniel Aldridge's handwriting, geological surveys, mineral content analyses, coordinates. And on the last page in different ink written the day before he died, if anything happens to me, find Hank Mercer. Trust no one else. This isn't coincidence, Autumn. None of it. She'd read that line 500 times. Still didn't understand it. The drive to Rosie's Diner took 12 minutes on empty roads. Dawn broke pink and gold across the Sonoran Desert painting saguaro cacti in shades of fire. Beautiful country. Shame about the rot underneath. Rosie's sat on the corner of Main and First, a low-slung building with a neon sign that had read Rosie's once upon a time. Now it just said Roe's in flickering red letters. The E and the S had burned out years ago. Nobody bothered fixing them. Why waste money on cosmetics when the foundation was crumbling? Autumn parked her battered Toyota behind the dumpster. The morning shift meant arriving before sunrise, brewing coffee, prepping the grill, setting up the pie case with whatever Marlene had baked the night before. Usually apple cherry or pecan, the holy trinity of small-town desserts. Marlene was already inside, moving through the kitchen with the efficiency of someone who'd been doing this for 30 years. 58 years old, bottle blonde hair, teased into a style that had been popular in 1987, makeup applied with a heavy hand. She looked up when Autumn entered. Morning sugar. Happy birthday. Autumn stopped. How did you know? Marlene smiled, but something in it didn't quite reach her eyes. Saw it on your job application when you started. March 15th. Big plans today, working a double shift. Living the dream. Well, that's a shame. Pretty girl like you should be out celebrating, not stuck here pouring coffee for truckers. Pretty girls don't pay rent with birthday wishes. Autumn tied on her apron, started the industrial coffee maker. The familiar routine, muscle memory. Don't think, just move. Fill the filter, measure the grounds, pour the water, press the button, listen to it gurgle and hiss like something alive. The first customer arrived at 5:30. Earl Patterson, 72 years old, retired ranch hand, ordered the same thing every morning for the past decade. 2 eggs over easy bacon, crispy wheat toast, no butter, black coffee. Morning, Earl. Morning, Autumn. You're looking particularly lovely today. You say that every day, and I mean it every day. She smiled despite herself. Earl was harmless, one of the good ones. He left a $5 tip on a $7 breakfast and always said thank you. By 7 a.m., the diner filled with the usual crowd, Construction workers heading to job sites, truckers passing through, retired men with nowhere else to be. Autumn moved between tables with practiced efficiency, refilling coffee, taking orders, delivering plates. Invisible, forgettable, exactly how she needed to be. Then Marlene's voice cut through the morning chatter. Autumn, honey, can you cover the counter? I need to make a phone call. Sure. Marlene disappeared into the back office. Autumn watched her go, noting the tension in the older woman's shoulders, the way her hand trembled slightly when she reached for the doorknob. Fear. Autumn had learned to recognize it, had worn it herself for 8 months. The door chimed. Autumn glanced up automatically, cataloging the new arrival. Mid-40s, tall, well-built in the way that came from labor, not gyms, flannel shirt, jeans, boots caked with red desert dust, and a face that said he was looking for someone. His eyes swept the diner, landed on Autumn. Held there, she felt something cold settle in her stomach. Recognition without understanding. She had never seen this man before, but he moved with purpose, intent, like a predator who'd spotted prey. Autumn, her name. He knew her name. The diner conversations didn't stop, but they changed. Voices dropped slightly. People noticed. In a town like Pine Ridge, everyone noticed everything. I'm working. She kept her voice level. Professional. The man walked toward her. Not hurried, just inevitable. I need to talk to you. I don't know you. No, but you know who sent me? Daniel Aldridge. The man didn't say it, didn't have to. The name hung in the air between them like smoke. Autumn's hands tightened on the coffee pot. 8 months. She'd been careful for 8 months. Kept her head down, didn't make waves, worked double shifts and went home to her trailer and didn't talk to anyone about the notebook hidden in her drawer, or the rock samples she kept in a locked box under her bed, or the nightmares about Daniel's car going off Highway 89, tumbling 300 feet, exploding on impact. Brake failure, they'd said. Mechanical malfunction. These things happen. Except brake lines don't just fail. Not on a vehicle maintained by a mechanic who'd learned his trade in the Marine Corps. Not when that mechanic had called her 2 days before his death and said, Autumn, if anything happens to me, don't trust the local cops. Don't trust the FBI. Find Hank Mercer. He's the only one. She'd asked who Hank Mercer was. Daniel had laughed, but there was no humor in it. Someone who understands that some debts can't be paid with money. Someone who knows what it means to finish what someone else started. Then he died, and Autumn had run, changed her name on her job application. Autumn Stevens instead of Autumn McKinley, paid cash for everything, kept her geology degree hidden, played the role of a small-town waitress with no past and no future. But Daniel had found her anyway, or rather, he'd left her a map to someone who could help. The man at the counter wasn't moving, just standing there waiting, patient, like he had all the time in the world. Fine. Autumn set down the coffee pot. My break's in 10 minutes. There's a picnic table out back. I'll be there. He left. The door chimed behind him. Autumn felt every eye in the diner on her back. Small towns were like that. Everyone watching, everyone remembering. This would be all over Pine Ridge by noon. The new waitress meeting with a stranger. Questions would be asked. She didn't care anymore. 8 months of hiding had taught her that fear was just another kind of prison, and she was done being locked up. Her break came at 7:45. Autumn stepped out the back door into harsh Arizona sunlight. The man sat at the picnic table, a scarred wooden thing that had been there since before Autumn was born. He had removed his flannel shirt. The t-shirt underneath showed arms marked with old scars and older tattoos. Military ink. The kind you got overseas in places where the artists worked by firelight and used needles that had seen too much use. You know who I am, not a question. Autumn sat across from him. Cade Thornton, sheriff's son. Daniel mentioned you? That surprised him. She saw it in the flicker of his eyes. What did he say? That you were dangerous? That I should stay away from you? Smart advice. I don't take advice well. Cade leaned back, studying her. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone scared. Someone running. I am running. I'm just tired of it. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Cade reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it across the table. Autumn unfolded it. A photograph, printed on regular copy paper but clear enough. It showed her and Daniel together standing outside a geological survey site. She remembered that day, last June. Daniel had hired her to do mineral analysis on several parcels of land outside Pine Ridge. Professional work. She'd been excited. Her first real job using her degree since graduating 3 years ago. Where did you get this? Found it in Daniel's apartment. After he died. Yeah, after he died. Autumn studied the photo. She looked happy in it, smiling, holding a rock sample up to the light. Daniel stood beside her, pointing at something in the distance. Two professionals doing legitimate work. Why are you showing me this? Cade's expression hardened. Because I want to know what you were really doing out there. What you found. What Daniel found. Lithium. Autumn said it flatly. Daniel hired me to do geological surveys. I found one of the richest lithium deposits in Arizona, maybe in the whole Southwest. And it's on public land. Bureau of Land Management Territory. Protected. Can't be mined without federal permits that take years to get. Millions in environmental impact studies. Proper licensing. But someone's mining it anyway. Not a question. Cade knew, had always known. Autumn met his eyes. Desert Lithium, LLC. Shell company registered in Delaware. Owned by another company, which is owned by another company. But if you follow the paper trail far enough, it all leads back to one person. Who, before she could answer, the back door banged open. Marlene stood there, face-pale, hands shaking worse than before. Autumn, honey, you need to come inside. Now, I'm on break. Now, something in Marlene's voice, not anger, terror. Autumn stood. Cade did too, moving with the lazy confidence of someone who'd never had to worry about being challenged. He looked at Marlene with something like contempt. Morning, Marlene. Making your usual phone calls? Marlene flinched. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. He walked past both women back into the diner. Autumn followed Marlene, trailing behind. Inside, the breakfast crowd had thinned. Just a handful of customers. Earl Patterson still nursing his coffee. Two truckers at the counter. An elderly couple in the corner booth. And standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the morning sun, a man Autumn had never seen before but somehow recognized. 67 years old. Gray beard, leather jacket despite the heat, and below the table's edge visible when he shifted his weight, a prosthetic leg. Titanium and carbon fiber, where his left leg should have ended at the knee. Hank Mercer. She didn't know how she knew, just did. The same way you know a storm is coming before you see the clouds. Some recognition deeper than sight. He was looking at her too. Those eyes taking her measure. Combat eyes. The kind that had seen things most people couldn't imagine and carried the weight of them every waking moment. At his feet sat a German shepherd. Big dog, well-trained. The kind of animal that didn't move without permission but could explode into action in a heartbeat. A working dog. Military. The diner had gone quiet again. Everyone watching, everyone knowing something was happening, but not understanding what. Autumn walked toward him, each step measured, deliberate. When she was close enough to speak without shouting, she stopped. You're Hank Mercer. He nodded once. And you're Autumn McKinley. How did you know I was here? I didn't. I came to Pine Ridge for different reasons. But when I walked in and saw you, I knew. Knew what? That you're the one Daniel told me about, the one he was trying to protect. Daniel's dead. I know. That's why I'm here. Autumn felt something crack inside her chest. 8 months of holding it together. 8 months of pretending she was fine, that she could handle this alone, that she didn't need help. 8 months of lying. I have his notebook. The words came out quieter than she'd intended. All his research, the geological surveys, the mineral samples, everything he found before they killed him. Hank's voice stayed level, but something changed in his posture, a subtle shift. The dog noticed too, ears forward, attention locked on Autumn. She glanced around the diner. Too many ears, too many eyes. Not here. Where there's a place. Outside town, old mining access road off Highway 12. I can meet you there in 2 hours after my shift. I'll be there. He turned to leave, then stopped. The dog did too, perfectly synchronized. Hank looked back at her. Daniel was a good man. Whatever he got himself into, whatever he found, he was trying to do the right thing. I know, so are you. I can see it. How? Because you're still here. You could have run, disappeared, gone somewhere safe, but you stayed. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. He left. The door chimed. The diner exhaled collectively. Conversations resumed, but different now. Speculation. Questions. Who was that man? What did he want with Autumn? Should someone call the sheriff? Autumn walked back to the counter, picked up the coffee pot, resumed her rounds. Acting normal. Playing the role. But inside, something had shifted. For 8 months, she'd been alone. Isolated. One person against whatever darkness had killed Daniel. Now she had an ally, maybe. Or maybe Hank Mercer would be just another person who'd end up dead because of what Daniel had discovered. Another name to add to the list of people who tried to fight and lost. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Orders taken, food delivered, tables cleared. Autopilot. Her mind was already at that meeting spot, already planning what she'd say, how much she'd reveal. At 9:47, Cade Thornton walked back in. He didn't sit, just stood by the door watching her. When Autumn passed close enough, he grabbed her arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make a point. You're making a mistake, talking to people like Mercer, asking questions about things that are none of your business. Daniel was my business. Daniel was a fool who stuck his nose where it didn't belong. You want to end up like him? Let go of me. Listen to me, Autumn. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you're going to do, it's not worth it. Walk away. Leave Pine Ridge. Go back to wherever you came from. Forget Daniel. Forget everything. She looked at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. No, I'm not leaving. I'm not forgetting. And I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Probably. But I'm not. She pulled her arm free. Kay didn't try to stop her. But his expression promised this wasn't over. He left without another word. Marlene appeared at Autumn's elbow, voice low. You need to be careful, honey. The Thorntons run this town. You don't want to make enemies. Too late for that. Autumn, please, I'm trying to help you. Then tell me the truth. Who did you call earlier when you went to the office? Marlene's face went white. Don't lie. I saw you. You were terrified. You made a call, and then you came back and told me to come inside, like someone told you to get me away from Cade. Who was it? The older woman's hands trembled so badly she had to grip the counter. I can't. If I tell you, if they know I told you, they'll kill you, like they killed Daniel. Marlene's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I just wanted to keep my diner. Keep my life. They said if I didn't help them, they'd burn it down. Said I'd lose everything. Help them how? Watch, listen. Report anything unusual. Anyone asking questions about the mining operations. About Blackwood? There it was. The name Daniel had written in his notebook. Underlined 3 times. Ellis Blackwood, Colonel U.S. Army, retired. The man at the center of everything. Autumn leaned close, voice barely a whisper. You called Blackwood. Told him I was here. Told him about Hank Mercer. I had to. I'm sorry, I had to. How long have you been doing this? Marlene's tears spilled over, running mascara down her cheeks. 20 years. Since Raymond Aldridge started asking questions, since they killed him and made it look like combat. Raymond Aldridge, Daniel's father, dead 20 years. Autumn felt the world tilt slightly. Daniel had never talked much about his father, just that he died in Iraq, IED. One of thousands, a casualty of war, except it hadn't been war. It had been murder. Everything Daniel had been investigating, everything in his notebook, it all connected back to his father. To a Marine who discovered something he shouldn't have, who'd been eliminated, and now Daniel was dead too. Same pattern, same people, history repeating itself. Autumn looked at Marlene with something between pity and contempt. You need to leave, get out of Pine Ridge, tonight, because when this is over, when the truth comes out, you'll be charged as an accessory to murder. I can't leave. I have nowhere to go. Then I guess you'll go to prison. Autumn untied her apron, dropped it on the counter, walked out of Rosie's diner without looking back. Her shift wasn't over, but she didn't care. Some things mattered more than a paycheck. The drive to the meeting spot took 30 minutes. Highway 12 north, then a barely visible turnoff onto an old mining access road. The kind of place only locals knew about. Daniel had shown it to her last summer, explained it had been used in the 1800s during Arizona's copper boom. Abandoned now. Just red dirt and scattered equipment rusting under the endless sun. Hank Mercer's Harley was already there. He sat on a large boulder, the German shepherd lying at his feet, both utterly still, waiting. Autumn parked, got out, walked toward them. The dog's head lifted, watching her approach. Hank didn't move. When she was 10 feet away, he spoke. His name is Gunner. He won't hurt you unless I tell him to. Good to know. She sat on a smaller rock across from him. The desert stretched around them in all directions. Empty, isolated. The kind of place where you could scream and no one would hear. But Autumn wasn't afraid. Not of Hank Mercer. Not anymore. Daniel sent me a message. 2 days before he died. Told me if anything happened to him, I should find you. Said you were the only person who could help. Help with what? Finishing what he started. What his father started 20 years ago. Autumn reached into her bag, pulled out Daniel's notebook, held it for a moment, feeling its weight, then handed it across the space between them. Hank took it open to the first page. His eyes scanned Daniel's handwriting. Geological surveys, lithium deposits, coordinates. Then he flipped to the back, read the final entry, the one about Hank Mercer. When he looked up, his expression had changed. Harder, older, like he'd aged a decade in 30 seconds. Raymond Aldridge was my brother, not by blood, by choice. We served together. Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. 23 years of watching each other's backs. And when he died, I thought I knew what happened. Thought he died a hero, saving Lee's, doing his duty. But he didn't. No, he was murdered. Because he found out something he shouldn't have. Something about weapons trafficking, about military equipment being stolen and sold to the highest bidder, about a colonel named Ellis Blackwood who'd been running a criminal enterprise for decades. Autumn nodded slowly. Daniel found the same thing, but not about weapons, about lithium. Blackwood's moved on from guns to mining, uses shell companies to illegally extract resources from protected federal land, makes billions while destroying the environment and stealing from the American people. How much lithium are we talking about? Enough to power every electric car battery in the United States for the next 50 years. Conservative estimate, $200 billion in raw materials. Hank whistled low. That's a hell of a motive for murder. Daniel was getting close. He'd tracked the shell companies, followed the money, built a case, and then his brakes failed on a mountain road. They sat in silence. The desert wind picked up, carrying the smell of sage and creosote. Gunner shifted, sensing the tension in the air. Finally, Hank spoke. There's something you need to know. About Raymond, about Daniel, about you. What Hank reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small USB drive. Raymond left this. His wife Constance found it after he died. She's the one who wrote to me, Asked me to come to Pine Ridge. Said it was time I knew the truth. What truth? Raymond recorded a video 3 days before he deployed to Iraq, before he died. It's his testimony, his evidence, everything he knew about Blackwood. But there's something else on it, something he added at the very end. Hank handed her the drive. Their fingers touched briefly. His hands were calloused, scarred, working hands, hands that had done hard things. You need to see it yourself. I can't explain it. You have to watch. Where Constance lives, 2 miles north on Route 12. Blue mailbox. She's expecting you. Both of us. Autumn looked at the USB drive in her palm. So small, so light, but somehow it felt heavy, like it contained more than data, like it held the weight of 20 years of secrets. Let's go then. They drove separately, Hank on his Harley, Autumn in her Toyota. Gunner rode behind Hank, perfectly balanced, moving with the bike like he'd been born to it. Constance Aldridge's house appeared exactly as Hank had described. Blue mailbox, white clapboard siding, a porch that sagged slightly on the left side, the kind of house that had been built solid in the 50s and was now holding on through sheer stubbornness. An old woman waited on the porch. 84 years old, thin as a rail, but with eyes that missed nothing. She watched them approach with a mixture of hope and fear. Hank dismounted, first walked up the steps. They embraced briefly, old friends reunited by tragedy. Then Constance looked at Autumn, really looked at her. Her expression changed, something like shock or recognition. Oh my God, you look just like him. Who? Raymond, my husband. The resemblance is remarkable. Autumn felt something twist in her chest she didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Come inside. Watch the video. Then everything will make sense. The house smelled like old books and lavender. Photos covered every surface. Raymond Aldridge in his marine dress blues. Raymond and Constance on their wedding day. A teenage boy who must have been Daniel holding a baseball bat. A family frozen in time. Constance led them to a desk in the corner. An old Dell computer that was probably running Windows XP. She gestured for Autumn to sit, then took the USB drive with shaking hands and inserted it. The file appeared. Insurance.move. Raymond knew. He knew what he was recording could get him killed. So he called it insurance. Constance double-clicked. Windows Media Player opened. Buffering. Then Raymond Aldridge filled the screen. He looked older than the photos suggested. Harder. This was Raymond 3 days before he died, and he already had the look of a man who'd seen his own death coming. The video quality was poor. Shot on what looked like an old camcorder in low light. Raymond sat in a car camera propped on the dashboard. Behind him, darkness. The timestamp read March 12th, 2006, 11:47 p.m. If someone's watching this, Raymond's voice came through tinny speakers, then I'm already dead. Autumn's hands gripped the edge of the desk. My name is Staff Sergeant Raymond Aldridge, United States Marine Corps. I'm recording this as insurance, as testimony, as whatever the hell lawyers call it. He paused, rubbed his face. Even in the grainy video, the exhaustion was visible. 3 weeks ago, I came home on emergency leave. My dad had died. Heart attack, they said. I was going through his things when I found a ledger. Dates, amounts, initials didn't mean anything to me at first. But then I recognized some of the dates. They matched up with shipments coming through the depot where Dad worked. He was a civilian contractor. Logistics. The camera shook slightly as Raymond adjusted it. Behind him, headlights appeared in the distance. Dad wasn't just moving supplies. He was moving weapons. Military hardware that was supposed to be decommissioned. Destroyed. Instead, it was being diverted. Sold. For 15 years, he helped move weapons out of that depot. And the person coordinating everything, Raymond leaned forward, and even through the old video, Autumn could see the pain in his eyes. Colonel Ellis Blackwood, our commanding officer. Hank made a sound, Something between rage and grief. The video continued. Raymond explained the weapons trafficking, showed footage of a warehouse trucks being loaded with military crates. A younger Dalton Thornton visible in one shot, helping unload equipment. Then Raymond's voice changed, softer, more personal. But there's something else, something I need to say before I run out of time. He looked directly at the camera. 28 years ago, I made a mistake. I'd been married to Connie for 17 years. We were struggling, going through a rough patch. Our son, Daniel, was 17, rebellious. I was stationed in Arizona for temporary duty. And I met someone, a woman named Sarah McKinley. Autumn stopped breathing. It was brief. 3 months. I knew it was wrong. I ended it. Came back to my family. Never told Connie. Tried to forget. Raymond's eyes glistened with unshed tears. But last year, Daniel did one of those DNA ancestry tests. You know the kind. Spit in a tube, find out you're 12% Irish. Except Daniel found more than that. He found a half-sister, a girl named Autumn McKinley, born March 15th, 1998. The world stopped spinning. Or maybe it spun too fast. Autumn couldn't tell. I didn't know. Sarah never told me. Maybe she wanted to protect me, protect my marriage. I don't know, but when Daniel found out, he told me, showed me the DNA results. And I realized I had a daughter I'd never met, a child I'd abandoned without even knowing she existed. Raymond wiped his eyes roughly. I set up a trust fund, everything I could spare. When Autumn turns 30, she'll inherit it, legal and binding. I talked to Daniel about it, asked him to find her someday. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I would have been there if I'd known. He took a deep breath, but now I'm going to Iraq. And Blackwood's made it clear I won't be coming back. So if you're watching this, Autumn, if Daniel found you and gave you this message, I need you to know I'm sorry I never got to be your father. I'm sorry you grew up without me. But I'm not sorry you exist. You're my daughter. And I loved you before I even knew your name. He glanced over his shoulder at the approaching headlights. If I don't make it back, tell Hank Mercer everything. He's the only one I trust to finish this. And Autumn, sweetheart, I was trying to come home, trying to make it back by March 15th. Your birthday, our birthday together, the first one I knew about. The headlights were close now. I have to go. I love you, Connie. I love you, Daniel. And I love you, Autumn, even though we've never met, especially because we've never met. The video showed Raymond grabbing the camera, running toward the warehouse. Footage of men unloading crates, serial numbers being read aloud. Then chaos. Raymond running back to his car, tires squealing, the camera bouncing on the seat. Then black. Silence. The room was quiet except for Constance crying softly. Autumn sat frozen. Everything she'd believed about her life had just been rewritten. Sarah's silence, the missing father, the vague story about a soldier who didn't know she existed, all true, but incomplete. Raymond Aldridge was her father. Daniel Aldridge was her brother. And both of them were dead because of Ellis Blackwood. Constance's voice broke through the numbness. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I didn't know. Raymond never told me about you until Daniel discovered the truth. And by then, Raymond was deploying. He was trying to come home to you, trying to make it back for your 8th birthday. Autumn's voice came out hollow. He died on my birthday, March 15th, 2006. Yes. His last phone call to me, he said, pray I make it home by the 15th. I thought he meant safely home from deployment. I didn't know he meant your birthday, that he was desperate to meet you. 20 years. Her father had died trying to come home to her. Her brother had died trying to protect her. And she'd known neither of them. The grief that hit was unlike anything she'd experienced, not the slow fade of losing her mother to cancer. This was instant, total. The loss of people she'd never had but somehow always needed. Hank approached carefully. Autumn, don't. She held up a hand. Just give me a minute. But there wasn't time for grief. Couldn't be. Because somewhere in Pine Ridge, Ellis Blackwood knew she was here, knew she had Daniel's evidence. And if he had killed Raymond and Daniel, he wouldn't hesitate to kill her. Autumn stood wiping her face roughly. The resemblance to Raymond in that gesture was uncanny. Constance saw it. So did Hank. I need you to tell me everything. Every detail Raymond found. Everything Daniel discovered. All of it. Constance pulled a folder from the desk drawer, manila worn at the edges. Inside were documents, property deeds, mining permits, shell company registrations, bank transfers, Daniel's work, everything he found before he died. Autumn spread the documents across the desk. Her geologist training kicked in automatically, organizing, categorizing, analyzing patterns. Desert Lithium, LLC, incorporated 5 years ago, majority shareholder, a corporation owned by another corporation owned by a third. Classic money laundering structure. But Daniel had followed the trail through 7 layers of shell companies. At the end, one name appeared. Ellis Blackwood. He's not just mining illegally. Autumn's voice steadied as she shifted into analytical mode. He's preparing to sell the entire operation. According to these documents, there's a transaction scheduled for March 18th. 3 days from now, sell to who foreign buyers? Daniel's notes indicate representatives from overseas mining conglomerates. Purchase price $2.3 billion. For a mine on American soil, Hank's expression darkened. That's not just theft. That's treason, which means we can't go to local law enforcement. Autumn showed them the photograph from Raymond's video. The younger Thornton unloading weapons. Sheriff Dalton Thornton has been part of this for decades. FBI. Autumn pulled up more of Daniel's notes. Compromised. Special Agent Marcus Kellerman buried Raymond's case in 2006. When Daniel tried to reopen it last year, Kellerman warned Blackwood. 2 weeks later, Daniel's car went off a cliff. So we're on our own. Not entirely. Hank pulled out his phone. I have 5 brothers who will be here by morning. Men who understand what needs to be done. He made the call. Brief, direct, we're in. Full commitment. How soon can you get here? Luther Wrench, Kane's gravelly voice came through speaker. Already on the road. 4 hours out. Preacher Rattlesnake, Hammer, and Doc are with me. Good. Blue mailbox off Route 12. Constance Aldridge's place. Roger that. Hank disconnected, looked at Autumn with something like pride. What Daniel wrote in that notebook. About you finishing what he started. He knew what he was asking. I'm a geologist, not a soldier. You're Raymond's daughter. That makes you a warrior whether you've trained for it or not. Autumn looked at the documents spread across the table. At the video still paused on Raymond's face. At Constance, who'd lost a husband and son to the same evil. Then I need to tell you something else. Something that might change everything. What I've been working at Desert Lithium for the past month. Under a fake name. Autumn Stevens. They don't know who I really am. Hank's eyebrows rose. You infiltrated Blackwood's operation. I needed to understand the scope. See the evidence firsthand. Get documentation that would hold up in court. That's either insane or brilliant. Probably both. But it means I have access. I know the security systems, the personnel, the timeline for the sale. It also means you're in immediate danger. If Blackwood figures out who you are, he won't. I've been careful. Autumn, Hank's voice was gentle but firm. You look exactly like Raymond. Same eyes, same face. Blackwood spent years serving with your father. One good look at you and he'll see it. Then I don't give him a good look. In and out. 3 days. I photograph the final preparations, get the evidence we need, and we take down the whole operation before the sale completes. And if something goes wrong, then you finish what I started. You make sure Raymond and Daniel didn't die for nothing. The weight of that promise settled between them. These were the calculations soldiers made, the mathematics of sacrifice. Constance spoke up. There's something else you should know about Daniel. She walked to the bedroom, returned with a small box. Cardboard secured with tape. Autumn's name written on top in Daniel's handwriting. He gave this to me 3 days before he died. Said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you. Autumn took the box with trembling hands. Opened it carefully. Inside a letter, a key, and a photograph. The photograph showed Raymond holding a baby, smiling with pure joy. On the back, faded ink, Autumn 1 day old. The only picture I have. Daniel had found it, kept it, preserved it for the sister he had only just discovered. The letter was Daniel's precise handwriting. Autumn, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But you're not alone. You have a family. Constance is your stepmother. Hank Mercer is your uncle by bond, if not blood. And you have a father who loved you even if he never got to show it. Don't let them silence the truth. Finish what Dad started. Make his sacrifice mean something. Your brother Daniel. The key was labeled Storage Unit 47 Mesa Self-Storage Tucson. What's in the storage unit, I don't know. But I think we need to find out. They left for Tucson at dawn the next morning, Hank on his Harley Gunner riding behind. Autumn driving with Constance in the passenger seat. The old woman had insisted on coming. This is my family too. Raymond was my husband. Daniel was my son. And you're my daughter now, whether biology says so or not. The drive took 2 hours through desert that seemed to stretch forever. Autumn's mind kept circling back to the video. Raymond's face. His voice. I loved you before I even knew your name. Your mother was a good woman, Constance said quietly. Raymond talked about her after Daniel found out. Said Sarah had been kind, that he'd cared for her even though he knew the relationship was wrong. Did you hate her? No, I hated that Raymond lied. But Sarah was just a woman who fell in love at the wrong time. Constance looked out at the passing desert. I hated myself more for not seeing that Raymond was struggling, for not being what he needed then. He came back to you, yes, and we had good years after, but there was always a shadow, something he couldn't talk about. I thought it was war trauma. Turns out it was you, the daughter he'd never met. The weight of that secret. Mesa Self-Storage appeared ahead, a sprawling complex of orange metal buildings surrounded by chain-link fence. Unit 47 was in the back corner. Climate-controlled, the kind you rented for things that mattered. Autumn's hands shook as she fitted the key into the lock. The mechanism turned with a click. She lifted the door. Inside file boxes, 20 of them, neatly labeled in Daniel's handwriting. Geological surveys, core samples, financial records, shell company documents, photographs, maps, and in the center a laptop. Post-it notes stuck to the screen. Password is your birthday, MMDDYYYY. Autumn powered it on. Entered 03151998. The desktop appeared. One folder. Named simply Dad. She opened it. Hundreds of files. Daniel's complete investigation. Everything about Raymond's death. About Blackwood. About the weapons trafficking that had started it all. But also photos. Raymond with baby Autumn at the hospital. Raymond with Sarah smiling. Raymond holding a tiny pink onesie looking terrified and hopeful. Daniel had found them all, collected them, preserved them for the sister he'd barely known. Autumn's grief finally broke through, standing in that storage unit looking at pictures of a father she'd never met, collected by a brother she'd lost too soon. She let herself cry. Constance put an arm around her. It's okay, sweetheart. Let it out. I don't have time for this. They're still out there. Blackwood, the people who killed them. Then we cry while we work. That's what warriors do. Hank began loading boxes into his Harley saddlebags. What he couldn't carry, he photographed. Every document, every page, creating a digital backup that couldn't be destroyed. By the time they finished, the sun was setting. They drove back to Pine Ridge as twilight deepened. Stars emerged impossibly bright in the desert sky. 5 motorcycles waited outside Constance's house when they arrived. 5 men in leather jackets, iron Brotherhood patches visible in the dim light. Luther Wrench Kane stepped forward first. 65, built like a fire hydrant, graying beard to his chest. He gripped Hank's hand, then looked at Autumn. "You're Raymond's daughter. Can see it in your face. How did you've got his determination. That look that says you'll take on the world armed with nothing but principles." The others introduced themselves. Vernon Preacher Hayes, tall and calm. Otis Rattlesnake Web Sniper's eyes cataloging everything. Floyd Hammer Briggs Engineer's mind already analyzing. Silas Doc Montgomery Medic's hands scarred from years of saving lives. Men who'd been to war, who understood sacrifice, who wouldn't run when things got hard. Inside, they gathered around Constance's dining table. Autumn spread out the evidence: geological surveys, financial records, Daniel's timeline. "This is what we're dealing with. Ellis Blackwood has been running criminal enterprises for 30 years. Started with weapons trafficking, moved into illegal mining 5 years ago. He's currently extracting lithium worth hundreds of billions from protected federal land. And he's selling the entire operation to foreign buyers in 3 days. How do you know the timeline?" Wrench asked. "Because I've been working inside his organization, under a false identity." 5 sets of experienced eyes assessed her. Impressed, concerned. "That's either brave or crazy," Rattlesnake said. "Both, probably." Autumn pulled up an email on the laptop. "This confirms a meeting on March 18th, noon, with overseas representatives. Final transaction, $2.3 billion. That's treason." Doc's voice was flat. "Selling strategic American resources to foreign powers. Which means we can't go to local law." Autumn showed them Thornton's photo. "Sheriff's been on Blackwood's payroll for decades. FBI compromised." She showed Daniel's notes about Kellerman. "Buried Raymond's case. Warned Blackwood when Daniel investigated." "So we handle this ourselves," Preacher said quietly. "Not entirely." Wrench pulled out his laptop. "I've got contacts in the Arizona Attorney General's office. People who can't be bought. Get them solid evidence, they'll move." "What kind of evidence?" "Video of illegal operations. Financial records proving money laundering. Witness testimony. The kind that survives court challenges. I can get the footage." Autumn's voice was steady. "I have access to the mine. Know the security systems." "No." Hank's tone left no room for argument. "Too dangerous. I'm already in danger. Might as well use it. She's right." Wrench studied the laptop. "She's our best asset. Already inside. Already trusted. She's also our biggest liability," Doc countered. "If they figure out who she is, they won't. I've been careful. Autumn Stevens, right?" Rattlesnake had been examining the files. "Found your employee record in Blackwood's system. Background check came back clean. Because Wrench is good at his job." The old man grinned. "Damn right. But how long before they dig deeper?" Hank pressed. "You look exactly like Raymond. Blackwood served with him for years. One good look, and he'll recognize you. Then I stay peripheral, in and out fast. 3 days to document everything before the sale. And if it goes wrong," Autumn met his eyes, "then you finish what I started. Make sure they didn't die for nothing." The calculation hung in the air. The same mass soldiers had been doing for thousands of years. Finally, Hank nodded. "We do this smart. No solo operations. Coordinated support." They spent the next 3 hours planning. Rattlesnake would provide overwatch from high ground. Hammer would hack security systems to create blind spots. Doc on standby for medical emergencies. Preacher monitoring communications. Wrench preparing evidence for the Attorney General. And Autumn would walk into the lion's den one more time. The meeting broke around midnight. The Brotherhood would sleep in shifts, keeping watch. Autumn started to leave, but Constance stopped her. "Stay here tonight. Your trailer isn't safe anymore. I've been there 8 months. That was before Hank arrived, before Marlene made her call. Everything's changed." She was right. The world had shifted. No going back. Autumn took the guest bedroom. Daniel's old room, Constance explained. I haven't changed it since he moved out. High school trophies on shelves, band posters from the early 2000s, a bookshelf filled with geology textbooks and military history. Her brother's room, the brother she'd barely known. A photograph on the nightstand caught her eye. Daniel at graduation, Marine dress blues, smiling, proud. Behind it, another photo. Daniel and Raymond together. Father and son, both in uniform, both with that same determined expression. Both dead now. A soft knock. Hank stood in the doorway, Gunner at his side. Can't sleep either. Haven't slept well in 20 years. He came in, sat in the desk chair. The dog settled at his feet. Guilt, among other things. Hank gestured at the photos. Raymond saved my life in Fallujah, pushed me out of the way of an IED, took the blast meant for me. I watched him die thinking he was a hero. He was a hero. Yeah, but I didn't know the whole story, that he'd been murdered, that he'd left a daughter behind. If I'd known you'd have done what gotten yourself killed too, maybe I'd have been smarter, faster. Maybe I could have saved Daniel. Daniel made his own choices, chose to investigate knowing the risks. That's on him, not you. Hank studied her. You're angry? Of course I'm angry. My father was murdered before I could meet him. My brother was murdered before I could know him. And the man responsible is still out there. Autumn paced. But anger doesn't help, just makes you sloppy. That's something Raymond would say. Did you know him well? Well enough, 23 years of watching each other's backs. Hank smiled at the memory. He was a good man, believed in doing right even when it cost him. Cost him everything. Yeah, it did. Gunner's head lifted suddenly. Alert, ears forward. Hank was on his feet instantly, hand moving to his weapon. Stay here, he moved to the window. Gunner joined him, low growl rumbling. What is it, car? No headlights, coming up the access road. Hank sent a quick text. Seconds later, the Brotherhood materialized. Silent, armed, taking positions. The car stopped 50 yards out, engine running, two figures emerged, walked forward slowly, hands visible. As they entered the porch light, Autumn recognized one, Marlene. The woman looked terrified. The man beside her was unfamiliar. Late 50s, expensive suit, out of place in Pine Ridge. Hank opened the door slightly. Gun ready, 30 seconds to explain. Please. Marlene's voice shook. I need to talk to Autumn. Need to warn her. Warn her about what? About Blackwood. He knows who she is. Autumn's blood turned cold. How your employee photo. He was reviewing personnel files tonight. Saw your face. She wiped tears. He didn't recognize you at first, but then he pulled up old photos of Raymond. Did facial recognition. 97% match. The man beside Marlene spoke. Smooth, professional. I'm Preston Vale, Daniel's attorney. He came to me 6 months before he died. Asked me to hold documents in escrow, to be released if anything happened to him. What documents? Everything, financial records, geological surveys, witness statements. Vale pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Daniel built a complete case. He just needed one piece before going public. What piece proved Blackwood was selling to foreign entities? Proof of treason. Why help us? Because Daniel paid me well to do exactly this. Vale met Autumn's eyes. He talked about you, his sister. Said you were brilliant. Said if anything happened to him, you'd finish the work. Marlene sobbed. I'm sorry. 20 years of lying. Watching people die. I can't anymore. When Blackwood said he'd kill you tonight, I had to warn you. Tonight, when now? He called Sheriff Thornton 20 minutes ago, told him to bring deputies, eliminate everyone in this house. How many Thornton and 4 deputies? Plus 6 private contractors, all former military, all heavily armed. Hank calculated quickly. 12 hostiles inbound. He looked at his Brotherhood. Numbers 5 of us, plus Autumn and Constance. against 12 trained operators. I like those odds, Rattlesnake said dryly. Positions. Hank's voice carried command authority. Rattlesnake roof, preacher back door, hammer east window, dock west, wrench you're with me front, create crossfire. And me, Autumn asked, you in Constance basement. Now, I can fight, I know, but if we all die tonight, someone needs to survive. Someone needs to finish this. Hank gripped her shoulder. That's you, not this fight. She wanted to argue, but he was right. Getting killed accomplished nothing. Autumn helped Constance down the basement stairs. Marlene and Vale joined them. The attorney looked calm, like this was routine. Marlene couldn't stop shaking. Why now, Autumn asked her. 20 years of silence. Why break it tonight? Because I saw you, saw Raymond in your face, and I remembered when he tried to tell me what Blackwood was doing. Begged me to help, Marlene's voice broke. I refused, said I couldn't risk my diner. And he looked at me with such disappointment. Said, when they come for you, and they will, no one will help you either. She wiped her face. He was right. I've been waiting 20 years, living in fear. And tonight, when Blackwood ordered your death, I realized I'd become exactly what Raymond predicted. Someone too afraid to do right. Above them, vehicle sounds, engines cutting off, doors slamming, then silence. Gunner's growl carried through the floorboards. A voice amplified. This is Sheriff Dalton Thornton. You're surrounded. Come out with your hands up. Hank's response was clear. We both know that's a lie, Dalton. Blackwood sent you to kill everyone inside. I'm serving a warrant. For what crime does it matter you're not walking out? Neither are you. Footsteps, tactical movement, men positioning. Rattlesnake's rifle cracked. Sharp, clean. Someone screamed, then chaos. Gunfire from multiple directions. The house shook. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. Autumn covered Constance. The old woman gripped her hand. 90 seconds of hell, then silence except for moaning. Hank's voice. Status, preacher, one hostile down. Clear. Hammer, 2 wounded. Running. Doc. Got one. Another retreating. Rattlesnake. 3 down. Rest pulling back. Wrench. Regrouping. Won't take long. Hank called down. Autumn, you need to go. Now. Go anywhere but here. Take Constance. Vale and Marlene. Get to Tucson. Attorney General's office. Turn over everything. What about you? We'll hold them. Buy you time. You will die. Probably. His voice was calm. But you'll live. You'll finish this. Autumn looked at Constance. The old woman nodded. He's right. Vale pointed to a corner. Storm cellar. Opens outside. We can reach the cars before they see us. They gathered what they could. Laptop, flash drives, documents, the evidence. Autumn paused at the stairs. Hank. Yeah, thank you. Thank your father. This is his fight. We're just finishing it. Gunfire erupted again. Heavier. Vale opened the storm cellar. Desert air rushed in. They climbed out into darkness. The firefight raged behind them. Autumn's Toyota sat where she'd left it. She helped Constance into the passenger seat. Marlene and Vale in back. The engine started. Headlights on, and standing in their path blocking the road was Ellis Blackwood. 70 years old, but still solid. Still carrying himself like a colonel. He held a pistol loosely. Not threatening, just present. Autumn stopped. Put the car in park. Her hand moved to the baseball bat from Daniel's room that she'd grabbed. Don't. Blackwood's voice was calm. We're just gonna talk. Nothing to talk about. I disagree. He walked closer. You're Raymond Aldridge's daughter, which means you're Daniel's sister, which means you want me dead. Smart man. Which is why I know you won't try anything stupid, because your friends in that house are dying. And the only thing keeping them alive is this conversation. Call off your men. Why would I do that? Because I have evidence, everything Raymond found. Everything Daniel discovered. And if I don't check in with the Attorney General's office in 1 hour, it all goes public. Bluff? You haven't had time. Not a bluff. Preston Vale leaned forward from the back seat. I'm Daniel's attorney. I've had this evidence for 6 months. It's already in a dozen different hands. State AG, federal prosecutors, 3 major newspapers. The only reason it hasn't gone public is professional courtesy. Given Ms. McKinley the chance to see justice done properly. Blackwood's expression flickered, but he recovered. You're lying. Test me. Vale pulled out his phone. One call and this becomes the biggest scandal in Arizona history. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Blackwood's phone rang. He answered. Listen. His face went pale. Pull back. All units pull back now. He disconnected. Looked at Autumn with something like respect. You're smarter than your father. No, I just had better help and more time to prepare. What do you want, Justice? Autumn's voice was steel. You murdered my father. You murdered my brother. You've been stealing from this country for 30 years. And tomorrow you're going to pay for all of it. Tomorrow noon, when you meet your buyers, when you complete the sale, we'll be there, recording everything. And the moment that money transfers, federal agents will arrest you for treason. Blackwood's hand tightened on his weapon. You think I'll just let that happen? I think you don't have a choice because if you kill us now, the evidence goes public immediately. Your operation shuts down. Your assets frozen. Your buyers disappear. You get nothing. And if I walk away, disappear tonight, then you're a fugitive. Hunted, looking over your shoulder forever. Is that how you want to spend your last years? Blackwood stared at her, calculating. Then slowly he lowered his weapon. You're giving me a choice. Prison or exile. I'm giving you what you gave my father. A chance to do the right thing. Even though we both know you won't take it. You're wrong, I might. Then prove it. Show up tomorrow. Face what you've done. Take responsibility. Blackwood laughed. Bitter, you sound just like Raymond. All that naive faith in justice. Justice isn't naive, it's just slow. But it's coming for you either way. He stepped aside, gestured to the road. Go then. Get your evidence to whoever you want. Set your trap. I'll be there tomorrow. Not because I think it's right, but because I'm curious to see if you can actually pull this off. We will. We'll see. Autumn drove past him. In the rearview mirror, she watched Blackwood stand in the road, a man who'd built an empire on corruption, watching it crumble. Behind them, the firefight had stopped. The Brotherhood had survived. But the war wasn't over. Tomorrow would be the final battle. They drove through the night, reached Tucson as dawn broke. The Attorney General's office wouldn't open for hours, but Preston Vale made calls, pulled strings. By 7 a.m., they were in a secure conference room with Deputy Attorney General Catherine Reeves. Walk me through it, beginning to end. So Autumn did. Daniel hiring her, the lithium discovery, his death, her infiltration of Desert Lithium, the evidence gathered, everything. Reeves spent 3 hours reviewing documents, made calls, consulted prosecutors. Finally, she looked up. This is enough for arrest warrants. We can freeze assets, shut down the operation. But there's always a but. But Blackwood has resources, connections. His attorneys will tie this up for years. We need something undeniable. The sale. Autumn pulled up the email. Tomorrow, noon. If we catch him in the act document, the transaction, there's no defense. We'd need to surveil, record, identify all parties. I can get you in. I'm still an employee, still have access. I can place cameras. Absolutely not. Reeves shook her head. You're a civilian, a victim. Then the sale happens. Blackwood gets his money, disappears, and everyone he killed died for nothing. Silence. Reeves studied Autumn. If I allow this, you wear a wire. Federal agents on standby. The moment things go wrong, we extract you. I'm going in either way. With your help, we both win. Reeves looked at Vale. Your client is stubborn. She gets it from her father. Finally, Reeves nodded. 6 hours to assemble a team. You rest. Tomorrow you help us end this. The hotel was generic, forgettable. Autumn stood under a hot shower until the water ran cold. When she emerged, Constance was sitting on the bed. I keep thinking about that last phone call. Raymond saying, pray I make it home by the 15th. I prayed so hard, every night begging God to bring him home. He was trying for me. That makes it worse somehow, that he died trying to do something good. Autumn sat beside her, then rest. Let me carry this now. You're 28. You shouldn't have to. I'm Raymond Aldridge's daughter. I was born carrying things. A knock. Preston Vale with a folder. Thought you should see this. Arrived at my office this morning. Inside photographs. Hank in the Brotherhood. Not dead, alive. Wounded but functional. At some rural clinic. A note in Hank's handwriting. Still in the fight. Finish it. They'd survived. Constance smiled through tears. Those stubborn old men. Autumn felt something loosen in her chest. Her family was alive. Battered but standing. Tomorrow she'd finish what Raymond started. What Daniel died for. Tomorrow Ellis Blackwood would finally face justice. Morning came fast. Autumn dressed in her work clothes. Jeans, boots, company polo. The wire hidden under her collar. A necklace camera recording everything. Reeves met her in the lobby. This links to our command center. You'll hear us. We'll hear you. Keep communications minimal during the meeting. Understood. The drive to the mine took 2 hours. Federal agents followed invisibly. Professional. Desert Lithium's facility buzzed with activity. Men in suits, foreign accents, security everywhere. Blackwood taking no chances. Autumn badged in. The guard barely glanced. Just another employee. She went to the geology lab, set down her bag, began the routine. Acting normal. An hour later, her supervisor appeared. Stevens. Conference room. Blackwood wants final assessment before the sale. On my way. She gathered materials, including 6 fake rock samples that were actually cameras. To anyone else, they looked identical to lithium ore samples. The conference room was on the 2nd floor. Large, modern, already occupied. Blackwood at the head of the table. Sheriff Thornton by the door looking uncomfortable. 4 men in expensive suits radiating wealth and danger. And Marcus Kellerman, the FBI agent who'd buried Raymond's case. Autumn kept her face neutral, professional, just a hired geologist. Blackwood's eyes found her, held for a moment, recognition flickering. But he said nothing, just gestured to a chair. Ms. Stevens, walk our buyers through the survey. Autumn set down her samples. Each one now recording. She opened her laptop, pulled up charts. The lithium deposit extends across 300 acres. Current estimates place recoverable resources at 18 million metric tons. One suited man leaned forward. Purity 92% average, some veins as high as 97, among the richest deposits in North America. Extraction timeline. With current equipment, 12 years. With increased investment, potentially 8. The buyers conferred in a language Autumn didn't recognize. Eastern European, maybe. Blackwood smiled. Gentlemen, this is an extraordinary opportunity. One buyer spoke, accented English. The permits are legitimate, completely. All proper channels. Federal and state approval. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. Kellerman added, I've reviewed the documentation personally. Everything's in order, of course. Corruption, helping corruption. The meeting continued 90 minutes. Details negotiated. Terms finalized. Autumn sat quietly taking notes invisible while her necklace recorded everything. Finally, the lead buyer nodded. We are satisfied. The transaction can proceed. Blackwood gestured to Kellerman. Agent Kellerman has the banking information. Kellerman pulled out a tablet, set it on the table, began typing. The buyers did the same. Transfer initiated, $2.3 billion, routed through intermediary accounts. Final destination, Blackwood's Cayman Holdings. Silence except for typing, digital money moving. Stolen resources converted to wealth. Treason completed with keystrokes. Transfer confirmed. Blackwood stood, extended his hand. Gentlemen, pleasure doing business. The buyer stood, shook hands, smiled. Civilized men conducting civilized crime. Then doors burst open, windows shattered. Federal agents flooded in from 4 directions. Federal agents, nobody moved. Blackwood's composure cracked. Shock, rage, calculation. His eyes found Autumn, locked on the necklace. You. Catherine Reeves emerged flanked by U.S. Marshals. Ellis Blackwood, you're under arrest for treason, murder weapons trafficking, and 40 other charges. This is illegal. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent. Ayanins moved in. Blackwood was cuffed. So were the buyers, Kellerman Thornton. The sheriff looked broken. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. How was it supposed to end? Autumn asked quietly. More people dead, more families destroyed. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You just made bad ones for 30 years. They were let out, one by one. 3 decades of corruption ending in handcuffs, Reeves approached. You did well. Everything's admissible. Is it over? The arrests are done. Prosecution begins. But yes, the dangerous part is over. Autumn walked to the window, looked at the mine, equipment sitting idle, scarred earth where wilderness used to be. What happens to this operation shuts down. Land goes into federal remediation, eventually restored. Movement outside, 5 motorcycles at the gate. Security tried to stop them, but agents intervened. Hank dismounted stiffly. Wrench favored his shoulder. The others beat up but alive. They'd come anyway. Brotherhood transcending orders. Hank's eyes found Autumn through the window. He nodded. Pride. Respect. She nodded back. Thank you. Reeves touched her arm. There's someone else. Wants to see you. A woman in her 60s. Silver hair, kind eyes, holding a folder. Autumn McKinley, I'm Patricia Aldridge. Raymond's sister. Your aunt. More family appearing. Connections she'd never known. I'm sorry it took so long. I didn't know about you until Constance called yesterday. Patricia opened the folder. I brought photos, letters, things Raymond wrote after he learned about you. Inside were pages in Raymond's handwriting, addressed to a daughter he'd never met. Hopes, apologies, love letters revealed only by tragedy. Autumn read through tears. Constance appeared reading over her shoulder. Then Patricia. 3 generations of Aldridge women connected by love and loss. He wanted to be there. Patricia's voice was soft. Wanted to know you. Be your father. But he ran out of time. I know. And now you're finishing his work. We're all finishing it. Autumn looked at Constance, Patricia, the Brotherhood outside. Everyone he touched. That's the thing about good men. They leave echoes. Long after they're gone, their choices ripple outward. Raymond's echo had shaped Autumn's life before she knew his name, had driven Daniel's choices, had brought Hank and the Brotherhood to Pine Ridge, had assembled this unlikely family determined to do right. The echo would continue, through Autumn, through whatever came next. 6 months later, Autumn stood before a building that hadn't existed 6 months ago. Ray's place. Not a diner, a community center. The sign read, in memory of Staff Sergeant Raymond Aldridge and Sergeant Daniel Aldridge. Service sacrifice truth. Inside veteran resources. Job training. Counseling. Support groups. A garage where Hank taught wounded veterans to modify motorcycles. And In back, a geological consulting office where Autumn worked as federal expert witness, identifying illegal mining operations across the Southwest. The grand opening brought half of Pine Ridge. Constance stood beside Autumn, ribbon cutting, scissors in hand. Patricia flew in from Seattle. The Brotherhood came in force. And in the front row, a young man, Dylan Vance, 26, Marine veteran, leg amputated from IED in Syria. Lost, uncertain. She'd found him at the diner she'd purchased and renamed Ray's Diner, sitting alone staring at untouched coffee. Had recognized that look. Had sat across from him and said, "You look like you need a place to belong." Now he was here, first client of Ray's place, learning to ride from Hank, building community, finding purpose, the cycle continuing, Raymond's echo rippling outward. Constance cut the ribbon. Applause, photos, speeches about service and community. But the moment that mattered came later, after crowds dispersed, after sunset. Autumn stood alone in the garage, looking at a Harley Davidson the Brotherhood had rebuilt for her. Modified controls, custom seat, paint in marine colors with Raymond's and Daniel's names scripted on the tank. Your ride. Hank appeared, Gunner at his side. The dog had adopted Autumn as primary human, followed everywhere. Protective. I don't know how to ride. I'll teach you. Same way Raymond taught me 30 years ago. Your family. Family learns. Family. The word felt right now. When do we start tomorrow? But tonight there's something else. He showed a message on his phone. New Mexico, woman being threatened. Local cops won't help. She needs people who understand. You want me to come, I want you to lead. This is your operation now. Continuing what Raymond and Daniel started, helping those who can't help themselves. I'm not a soldier, neither am I anymore. But we're warriors, and warriors protect. Autumn looked at the message, thought about the woman in New Mexico, thought about herself 8 months ago, alone, desperate for someone to see her. When do we leave tomorrow night? After your first riding lesson. Hank smiled. Can't lead the Brotherhood if you can't ride with them. She walked outside. Perfect desert night. Stars scattered across black velvet. Cool air carrying sage scent. Constance waited by her car, paused when she saw Autumn. You okay better than good. Raymond would be proud. I hope so. I know so. You're exactly who he hoped you'd be. After she left, Autumn sat on the porch. Gunner settled beside her. In the distance, the Brotherhood prepared bikes for tomorrow. Her phone buzzed. Text from Reeves. Blackwood sentenced today. Life without parole. Federal supermax. Justice. Finally, another text. Patricia, putting together a memorial for Raymond. Marine Honor Guard. Will you speak? Of course. One more. Unknown number. Just thank you. Autumn didn't know who sent it. Maybe someone Daniel had helped. Maybe a stranger touched by Raymond's echo in ways she'd never know. Didn't matter. The work continued. The mission persisted. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people to help, new fights to win. But tonight she was home, in a place built by her father's sacrifice and brother's determination. Surrounded by family she'd never known she had. Autumn McKinley, daughter of Raymond Aldridge, sister of Daniel Aldridge, warrior, protector, echo. The story didn't end. It continued. One person at a time, one act of courage at a time, one echo rippling outward until it touched the next person who needed it. She walked back inside, locked the door, knowing she'd return tomorrow, and every day after, as long as people needed help. Because that's what warriors did, what families did, what echoes did. They persisted, they protected, they honored the fallen by living with purpose. And Autumn would honor Raymond and Daniel every day for the rest of her life. Not with grief, not with guilt, but with action, with courage, with the same stubborn refusal to quit that had defined them both. The desert wind carried whispers of the past, promises for the future. And somewhere in that wind, if you listened carefully, you could hear Raymond's voice, Daniel's laugh, the echo of good men who died doing the right thing. Their echo had found Autumn, had shaped her, had made her into exactly who she needed to be. And now she would be the echo for others, the cycle complete, the mission ongoing, the family forever, always faithful.